Tell me why you wanted to start talking about why tension is good for your event, why tension is good for fundraising. I have my own opinions about tension.
I'm gonna start. Let me tell you what I think, because what I see is everybody is, especially for professional fundraisers. For those of you that are out here listening, who this is what you do for a living, there is a constant state of trying to avoid tension, and we're always trying to avoid it. We want to be calm, and we want everything to be happy, and we want everything to be fun. And a lifetime ago, I was an Oklahoma City firefighter, and I worked at a crew, and the chief there, he was really kind of peculiar, I thought, in some ways. I was very young at the time, but he always liked to have a crew. He liked to put crews together where there was a little tension. He's like, tension's good for a crew, keeps them sharp. And the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. That means as people push and, everything good happens with tension. You go lift weights, you get stronger because you're putting muscles in tension. When you study and you try to learn something, your brain is in tension. So you're creating more, it's stress. And that's what makes strong. You take a piece of concrete, and if you pour it, it's fragile. You pour it with tension on it, and it's so much stronger. Tension is not a bad thing. Okay. And in you're right. And I want to give this one thing. 1963, from a Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote a letter to his critics. He talked about tension. And I think there are 4 lessons that we can learn from about what tension are. The 4 things are, number 1, and we can talk about these as we go. First one is tension is necessary for growth. Tension is necessary for growth. And I think of my own life, and every time I've had a growing time or something where I've come out better, it's been when I've been in tension and stress in that with pressure. As fundraisers, you guys, you're constantly dealing with, boards and committees, and the best events that I've ever been around, the most well run, the ones that performed well, that hit the goal, that did really well. There was always tension in the room.
The unknowing? Is that what you mean? Like the tension?
No. Tension, like I want to do this good. I want to do this. I'm not sure that you're all pulling the same way. Are we all on the same page? No, we're not on the same page. Why do you want to do this, Trevor? Yeah. Why is this? That tension, it's what makes it better, because if we all just line up and we're all just a bunch of sheep and we all just go, let's all do the same. Well, then there's no tension, and then there's no growth.
Yep.
Here's the second thing that I thought was real interesting that came out of that letter. This is not exactly what he said, but as you read it.
Yeah, we're paraphrasing.
Resisting tension creates complacency. Because every time you try to reduce the tension, that means you just become complacent. You just take whatever it comes. You take whatever's there.
Status quo.
Yeah. And it's like tension's a bad word. It's not. Tension's not a bad feeling. You just sent a video of you boxing over there. Were you in tension? Was there tension there?
Heck, there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I might feel like they're still under tension.
Yeah. There's a lot of tension with that. And so we get these feelings that, I just want everything to be happy and everything to be deal and everybody to get along and all that. And it's just.
We do want that. Yeah.
But it's wrong. It's wrong. You shouldn't want it. You should not want that. Because if you desire to have peace and everything to be calm and everything to be good, guess what? You're going to go nowhere.
Yeah, we want the outcome to be that way, but what we're saying is it's not that simple to get there, I suppose, right?
I'm just saying the absence of tension is going to be a wet noodle. You're going to fail. You're not going to grow. You're not going to get where you want to go, and your group is going to become complacent because they're not thinking. You're not challenging. When you start, and let me give you an example. Okay, let's say that somebody's new in the committee and they really want to do a fund a need. And I'm just making this up, so everybody just calm down. I know everybody wants to do a fund a need. And I say, I think we ought to go ask Trevor Nelson for a challenge gift. And everybody goes, oh, no, I don't know. Why not? Let's go ask him. That creates tension because there's other people that are going to say, well, I don't know. Should we ask him? Should we not? How should we ask him? Do you think he wants to do that? He just gave a big gift. I don't know. And that's where tension comes from. That's what tension is. It's challenging. It's pushing. It's, challenge the status quo. Well, that creates tension.
Yeah, for sure. I think I keep on thinking that it's what you're talking about and what we're sharing is synonymous with a lot of things that you just listed off. Discomfort, having a difficult conversation with someone, asking more out of yourself and the people around you, that can build tension, resistance, all of these things. I think they're synonymous. But once again, what we're saying is the outcome is great as a result, right? I mean, that's the idea. We ask these things out of ourselves. For the longest time, when people would say something to me about tension, like when I used to run a lot, it was explained to me by a really, really intelligent coach that you actually, you want your muscles to be pliable and all that jazz, and you don't want to get injured. And I understand all these things. But a really, really, really smart coach told me, you want tension because you want tension coming off the ground into your next step. Mm-hmm. You don't want your muscles and joints and tendons to be flimsy when you're out doing it. He's like, oh, no. Tension is good. That's why we do all these crazy jumping exercises. I'm like, hey, man, I just want to run up hills and down them kind of fast. He's like, then you need tension.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, interesting. It's very early on. He's like, you need to get on the track and run your butt off and sprint and stuff like that. I was like, really? He's like, you want to go faster, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. He said, well, it's relative. Then run faster. And I want you to do all this other stuff. And sure enough, it built more tension in me in a good way. I was asking a lot of myself. Plus, it was tense in the moment doing it because it was really hard. But that was my first real introduction to tension being good, because I thought of tension being like, oh, I grew up in a tense household.
Well, so there's a difference between, and I'm going to use the two terms that Dr. Martin Luther King used. He said, there's a difference. We're not talking about violence. We're talking about tension.
No.
And I think that we pair those two together, and they're not. Yeah. They're not.
Correct.
We're talking about something that builds. I use that, the tensile strength of something. Have you ever heard that term? Mm-hmm. I know everybody has. Tensile, tension. Yes. That means tension. When I talked about concrete, the reason we were able to build these giant skyscrapers is because of tension. Tension is growth. Mm-hmm. Tension is what you grow. Violence tears down and tears apart. That's not what we're talking. And I'm not talking about. I think that we get that word screwed up. And we're afraid it's going to, everybody's going to get mad and they're going to get upset. Well, you know what? It's okay.
What if I say
it's okay to push a little bit. And I think as nonprofit professionals, I think the number one thing that they do to hamstring themselves to hit their fundraising goals is that they try to relieve all the tension instead of embracing it and pushing it and creating it. And I don't mean, I'm talking about a healthy way, because guess what happens? If you take, I'm going to use the concrete again. It's called pre-tension and post-tension. So if you take this building, take a piece of tensiled steel, and it can hold up, thousands and thousands of pounds, but you put a little heat on it and release the tension, it will collapse immediately. It cannot stand without tension. And I think that's the thing. One of the things, going back to that letter, was tension is necessary for transition. You cannot move to something better without tension.
Yep.
You just can't.
Yep.
It's going to be hard. It's like, I'm a guy. Obviously, I've never had a baby, so I can't say, but, one of the most amazing things is birth to me, is the birth of a new life. And a mother and that terrible pain that they go through, that tension, that stress, that all that to go. And then this new life is there and immediately it's gone. And they'll always say, yeah, I'll do it again. And that's why they always say there's, if guys could have a baby, you'd only have one. So that's why we're not made that way. And then lastly, tension is exposed, not created. Now, I thought that was kind of that's not the way I really thought about. But if you think about your boards, if you think about your committees, it's already there. The tension's already there. You're just allowing it to be exposed. And when you do that, when you let it come out, everybody starts talking, and all of a sudden the ideas start opening up. Acceptance of new things, new possibilities. You've had somebody you've restrained and you've held it, you've tried to keep it all down, and let's all be happy, and let's not, we don't want to cause any tension. I had somebody say that. I don't want to cause any tension. Well,
because they're so afraid to upset someone.
Yeah, and
it's very.
And I think that's why,
for the betterment of the organization and the betterment of the mission, for the better, what I mean?
Any organization, tension's good for everything.
Yeah.
And I mean,
asking more.
Now, I want to say, tension's not comfortable. It is very uncomfortable It's
No,
uncomfortable. But
discomfort resonates with me with that.
yeah,
For
discomfort comes with any kind of growth, anything, and that's why, because that tension's there. And I think that's why
Amen.
this came to my mind, brother, because even our company, we have tension. We have rubs and pushes and pulls, and you and I push on each other, and we always, there's always a lot of affection, confidence, and respect within that. And I think that's the part when you've got two people who respect each other, but there's tension. It's like my marriage. My marriage is stronger because of the tension that happens in it. My wife pushing, she pushes me and I push her, and we grow together. And over 20 years, that has gotten so much stronger because of the tension. She's not just going to blindly follow me anywhere, anything I say, and vice versa. I'm not going to do the same thing with her. So but we have those things to come together. And anybody in a marriage that's ever been married for any more than 10 minutes knows there's tension in that. But it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yep.
So
just how you handle it.
I just think that as you're going into you're in your fundraising, and you're going into your committees, and you're dealing with these board meetings. And I'm going to say committees specifically because that's really where a lot of this happens. Boards are a little more structured. Committees tend not to be, and they can be dominated by somebody. I think it's really, as a fundraising professional, as you're sitting in there with that person, with that group of people, to embrace that tension. And the way that you can embrace it is, number one, by listening to everybody, letting everybody have an opportunity, not letting somebody dominate. One of the things that you can do is set some ground rules, so you're going to manage the tension, not let it go into a free-for-all where it kinds of, people are screaming and yelling. Because I've seen that too. Yeah. And so we're not trying to do that. We're trying to set some ground rules to say, hey, we're going to talk about this subject. We're not going to chase any rabbits. Just understand that we want to have one conversation. Don't need 5 conversations going on there. There's 10 of us here. We don't need one conversation. So I think those are things that you need to go into and not try to avoid it, just to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we get into a space, of course, when you're working with people, I think it's very common in the nonprofit world, brother, where people, I don't want to, they're so important because they're on the board. And I get that. I get being sensitive to relationships and donors and folks that give and you count on and stuff like that. But you know what? A lot of times you never know. They could absolutely, jump for joy if you ask them to do more, if you added a little tension, to the expectations and whatnot, and what you're trying to accomplish. Far more often we get in our own way and probably overthink it. And there's a lot of insecurity about asking more out of people, more out of ourselves, and create a little bit of discomfort or tension in the situation. And that's tough. That's tough, and I get it. However, it's necessary to grow, like you said. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Not even a question. I think it's really, really good.
Well,
I'm glad you came.
I got one point I want to close with on this. And, everything's coming, my phone's ringing, my background's going sideways, but everybody listening to this who don't care, just learn to embrace it. Learn to see that if you've got tension within your organization, that means you got growth. It means you got potential to do more. Holding people accountable is such a big part of it. That accountability piece, that, keeping everybody on track. So
I love it.
I hope that you brought it up.
If y'all get anything out of this, do us a favor. Jason and I would certainly appreciate, the entire HGA team would appreciate it if you would download, rate, review, subscribe, share this with someone in your network. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment. And if you get any value out of it, pass it along, and we'd really, really appreciate it. Just a quick reminder, every Thursday we're doing our HGA free webinar series every Thursday, noon Central. Awesome topics, a little longer form, 45 to 60 minutes. It's absolutely free to you. You can sign up and register. You'll get the recording sent to you within 24 hours. If you join us, you have a chance to win an auction item for your next event. So there's no tension there.
Yeah.
Do us a favor.
Yeah, we try not to have much tension there. Well, one thing I want to say too is if you find you're like, I feel like I've got that tension, I don't know how to manage it, sign up for a free coaching session. We're here.
I love that.
Free. We'll spend some time with you and no agenda on our side just to help manage through that. So it's there for you.
100%.
All right.
Thanks, brother. I think it's really awesome. Thanks for bringing that up. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.
Adios.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the download button, rate us, and follow us on social media at HGA Fundraising. Get out there, start fundraising, and raise more money. See you next time.